Welcome to the Arts DAO podcast, your number one podcast for understanding everything in the Web3 space, giving you decentralized access to everything happening behind the scenes. We chat with influential creators, entrepreneurs, and builders leading in the NFT community with exciting companies and projects emerging in Web3.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to be back on the Arts DAO podcast. We're actually in a pretty new location today. So this is your host, Anas Bird, and I'm here with my main man, Danosh. How's it going?
Great. We had some pancakes this morning and Maha joined us. Although you didn't get the chance to devour it, Maha, because you're doing some intermittent fasting now. Is that right?
Yeah, but those aren't real pancakes. Those were crepes. American pancakes are thick, fat, fluffy, doused in syrup.
True.
Breakfast items.
Yeah, no, the Swedish pancakes are a copy of the French ones. Yeah.
It's so good to be here. You guys, this is a really cool setup. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, Danosh is, normally the podcast is done in my place, but now the podcast has shifted over to his place because there's a lot more light here. You got this nice view. You know, it's a lot more airy. So, no, I'm really loving this. It changes the vibe of the podcast completely.
It's good to change scenery every now and then.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a new guest. We have an amazing guest today. So
yes.
We have Maha in the house, Maha Gaber. Maha, do you want to give a few words about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, you guys, it is a sick setup here. I did, the minute I walked in, I was like, wow, this is really gorgeous. So excited to be on the podcast today. I am a communications professional. So I basically am a professional storyteller. I've been doing communications for a long time. I used to work at Google and did comms for Netflix, and now I work with people like Gary Vee and Veefriends. But I really try to help people tell stories, and I think the market changes a lot, so you want to make sure you have a good narrative, you're authentic. So that's really what I do. I work with a lot of governments in the Dubai, or I work with the government in Dubai a lot, and I work with clients in the US. And I'm from this region. I'm Egyptian. I'm born and raised in the US. So I used to live here for 8 years. I left during the pandemic, but it's good to be back. And I'm here a lot more, and I'm loving what you guys are doing. Really impressed with what the Arts DAO is bringing to the community, building within the ecosystem here. And so hats off to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. But, you know, I think what's even more inspiring is definitely what's happening with Veefriends. You know, massive grats to that $50 million raise very recently with some pretty headline kind of VCs. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, you know, what's been happening at Veefriends and, you know, how much fun you've been having with them.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. So Gary in December of 2020, end of December 2020, is like, I'm really interested in looking at the NFT space. And when he goes into something, he's all about doing hours and hours of homework. So all of a sudden we're on a text thread and he's like texting us and sending us all these things. You guys got to study. You guys got to be ready. And in 2021, he launched Veefriends in May. And Veefriends, the day he launched the project, ETH was at its all-time high of like more than 4,000. Yeah. So it was like a really crazy day, the day that he launched the project. But you know, Gary talks a lot and has been talking a lot that 99% of NFT projects are going to go to zero. And the reason why he is bullish on NFTs and building this company is because he's building IP. So for this, the NFT launch was basically his IPO. And thinking about how he can take his ideas of scaling concepts like empathy elephant, accountable ant, patient panda, like traits he really believes in that people don't teach in schools or people don't teach enough, what they call soft skills. He's doing it through these characters. So what you're going to see, and there'll be announcements coming out, is this is a project that's to build IP and to bring value for the community. And so I think one of the things, Veefriends is the largest Discord NFT project in the US. They have more than 300,000 people that are on their Discord.
I'm part of the Discord, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about, for them, it's all about building community. Like, how do you build community? The second thing is, how do you bring value to that community? So are you educating them about the space? Are you helping them get them access to events? Are you helping get them access to brands, partners, opportunities? And so really making sure that you're constantly trying to bring value to your community. And so you're not just, because when you buy an NFT, it's like you're a shareholder, you're an investor in that project.
It's that stakeholder economy.
It's that
we talked
stakeholder
about.
economy that you talked about at the Metaverse Assembly. So I think it's really important to see how they're doing it. Gary's a content machine and engine and believes in communicating a lot with his community. So he's active in the Discord himself. They're doing live events in person now that people are doing events again in person. So I think that's been a difference to the Veefriends DNA is how do you build brand? How do you bring value to your community? And how do you really know that you're there because of your community?
I'm not going to lie, but we at Arts DAO have been very heavily influenced by what Gary Vee has been doing. The live events part in particular, we do a lot of live events with Arts DAO. We do our content, our podcast was in some way inspired.
I wouldn't say we are copycats, but almost.
Yeah, but you know what? To take an inspiration from the playbook, that's you're smart because you got to learn from somebody who really practices what he preaches. Like, don't overthink it. Don't overthink what do we look like? What are we doing? Like, create content, build a community, put yourself out there because that's how you're going to grow. And that's really, really important. If you are an NFT project or a brand thinking about what you should do, start to listen to some of those thought leaders in the industry in this space and mimic what they're doing because it's working. It's working to build community and have impact in the business.
Yeah, Gary's been a huge inspiration. I mean, the whole idea of getting this podcast was us listening a lot to Gary and then thinking about how can we create content that brings value to people, right? Because at the end of the day, everything we've been doing from day one was how can we bring more mainstream adoption to the space? How can we educate people? How can we give value before asking for value? And that's one of the biggest learnings I think we have taken from Gary.
100%. And honestly speaking, if you are creating a social media channel, a podcast, an Instagram page, a Discord, you need to nurture it and you need to invest in that community and really, connect with them. And you'll be surprised about how much you get back from them, the things that you learn from them, the business connections you will make, the value you can bring to each other. And really those opportunities exist when you make an effort to connect and build and grow a community.
Just to kind of inform the audience who may not be fully aware of, the Veefriends kind of NFT project, but one of the things I know is that with Veefriends, it effectively grants you access if you own any of those NFTs to, I think, up to 2 years of VCon.
You
right?
get every single token gives you 3-year access to
3-year
VCon.
access, right?
And there are some tokens that are access tokens, so you can do either a FaceTime with Gary, have breakfast with Gary, go fishing with Gary.
That's awesome.
But
go fishing
those are
with Gary.
Yeah, and I didn't even know he fished. But you can go to a basketball game. So all those there are some tokens that are access, but I think when the NFT scene came in, it was on the market. It was all about the digital art and the PFP and the collectible and the characters and traits of the art. But now the beauty of blockchain and beauty of NFTs is the utility aspect. You can give people access. So you're seeing a lot of token gated events. If you have this NFT, you get into this event. Brands are really starting to embrace it. What perks can we give them? How can we make this NFT like a digital loyalty card? So they can get access to fashion shows or pre-sales or that type of thing. So the utility aspect of an NFT is what's really going to be revolutionary, and it's going to have that digital component where people can express themselves through the brands that they own or the NFTs that they own. And that's the fun part where I'm seeing all the businesses come in to see how they can really leverage the technology.
So that's pretty cool. And looking at the Veefriends project, it's been a massive success. And what can you say about what Gary has done compared to many other projects that we could learn from, or any other NFT project could learn from? What has been his kind of success factor, other than just being Gary and having loads and millions of followers?
Creating value.
No, honestly speaking, I can't speak to what other projects are doing, but I can speak to what he's doing just because I'm close to the sun and I work directly with him. But I think Gary's approach is that he wants to be available for his community all the time and making sure that he's bringing value to them. Like, he's always thinking of, this is a 45-year project. This isn't a 5-year project. And he talks a lot about that, like building for the long term, because there's a lot of people in this market to flip and to make money.
Exactly.
And so I think a lot of people, now that we're in the bear market, seeing like the tourists have gone, like people that came in that were trying to make a lot of money and flip, but like now we see the real players, the real people that care about the NFT space, the real people that care about how to use the blockchain technologies. I think that's like a cornerstone of how he's treating this, is building IP, bringing value, and thinking about this in 45-year terms versus 5-year terms.
So do you have a 45-year vision for Veefriends?
He does. He definitely does. And he's working on it every single day.
That's really cool.
Well, let's take this conversation then into that. So one of the things that you love talking a lot about, which is storytelling, right?
Yep.
And I think Gary does this very well. But how have you kind of explored storytelling? What can you say to people who are building right now in this horrendous bear market? How can they tell their stories better to survive and become something spectacular?
Yeah, so if you have an NFT project and you're an artist, focus on your personal brand. Use this time to get people to know you, because like companies, when people invest in a stock, they look at who's the founder of the company.
Elon Musk.
Who's
Steve
the
Jobs.
person behind the company. So who's the artist or the founder of the NFT project? Start telling your story. Create a podcast. Do things on video. Start doing, maybe write a blog. Like, help build your personal brand, because people invest in people. They don't invest in companies. That's the first
deep.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing is start thinking about how to connect with your audience in new ways. So events are a really good way to showcase your brand, because now you're bringing your brand to life in real life. So COVID is presumably past us right now, and restrictions are lifted and people are doing events. So going to these events to meet your community in person, hosting meetups in the cities where you might have community members be, that connectivity is what we crave and what we love. And one of the things we learned a lot about COVID is, if we don't meet each other in person, we need that human connection.
You can't just live on Discord.
You can't just live on Discord. So really make an effort to meet people in real life. And that doesn't mean you need to have a budget to throw a fancy event. It's like, hey, we're meeting at this coffee shop, show up, it's a meetup.
Well, thank God Arts DAO has a Farsi Cafe meetup every week.
Every Thursday.
That matters. That really matters, because you want to know people in the space. We're all newbies here. You might be a normie coming in and you're intimidated by the space, so you don't know where to go and learn. So join a community. So that's like another thing you can do.
I think you're right. We should just follow the Gary Vee playbook.
I think some of the things we just did subconsciously, without, we're just thinking about how can we bring more value to the people? How can we bring them closer to each other? And what we realized with COVID was that people were getting really lonely, even though they were communicating on Clubhouse, on Twitter Spaces all the time.
Of course.
But people were like, we're social creatures, right? We crave that human interaction, and people loved the real life meetings, and that's kind of what differentiated us towards some other like projects here in this region.
The other thing is find a common connection. So right now we're all learning about NFTs or the bear market or what to be doing, but we're also learning about what is Web3, what's its capabilities, what is the metaverse. Take that as an opportunity to educate and grow other people, because you're all learning together. So maybe you want to bring in experts that can bring value to your community, explain to people, guest speakers, guests who are running other projects, to learn from each other. The beauty of the Web3 space, which I think is much different than Web 2, is it's everybody in. It's not like, oh, those are competitors, or these NFT projects talk to these NFT projects, where in companies and startups, they may not have done that before. So now it's like everybody in, and everybody goes together, and collaboration is super, super important, because it's early days. Like this is the time where we're the early days of, like, if you think about Apple and Microsoft and Google, and like this is our generation's version of that. And so we want to be a part of it. It's exciting. It's new. It's scary. It's exciting for a lot of people to be a part of it. So just make sure you find a community that you can engage with.
But community has become such a buzzword. Everyone is talking about community building. Brands are thinking about how can we create a community around, our brand. Emirates was talking about it.
Yeah.
Why do you think community has become so important? I mean, 5 years ago, there was people talking about community, but now it seems everyone is talking about
WeWork talked about community before, but it was a different kind of community. But now it's I think what's different, and this is my view, is that there's that stakeholder economy point, right? I think before, members of a community never had a stake in the project, so to speak. They attended some kind of meetup, for example, organized by a company, but they weren't shareholders or token holders in our case, right? I think that's the big change, perhaps.
There's a difference between community and audience.
That's a very
That's the
important point.
difference, right? An audience is someone who's there receiving information and just accepting whatever the message or story, or they're consuming it. A community is an active participant in that business, project, mission, ecosystem. And I think that's the difference, is that the community really feel that stakeholder piece, but they also understand they have leverage and power to move things.
Exactly.
And to influence things and to inform things. And I think that's how I would think about it. There's a difference between community and audience.
What's interesting, I think, and I've seen this a lot with Veefriends, is that members of the Veefriends community are creating content for Veefriends without the Veefriends team necessarily.
Yeah, like unsanctioned. They're like people just out there curating because they love the business or they love the brand, and that's the beauty of community.
Yeah, and it's all kinds of stuff. There's like people creating art. There's people creating even like T-shirts or whatever it is. They're doing things around the community, around the brand, without the brand necessarily, employing them like an employee, not telling them do this.
Yeah.
It's sort of I want to support this brand, and in doing so, you kind of have all these champions evangelizing or sharing the value of that brand, and all of a sudden, that's how the community sort of built. Right? People then want to join in and be part of it.
Well, here's a big difference. Like in Discords in Web3, you have community moderators that are pretty much volunteers, people who aren't paid. In Web 2, in Instagram, you would never turn over your pages to just a bunch of volunteers, because you have to protect the brand and brand guardians and guidelines and rules. But that's a really good example of like the community mods. Like we let the crowd manage.
I have a good thing on this. We at Arts DAO, when we launched our Discord, we actually paid for mods to come in, and they did a horrible job, a really, really bad job. And our council, many members were like, why do you hire these people? Do you not realize, why are you taking a Web 2 approach to Web 3?
Yeah.
And they were like drilling this to our heads like 10 times. Finally, we scrapped them, and exactly what you said happened. I was shocked to see this, but people are happy to share to like. Once I was on a Twitter space, and some guy that I don't know, who was trying to reach out to me, another guy I didn't know said, oh, Anas is on a Twitter space. He won't be responding right now. So just check in later. And that wasn't a member of the Arts DAO team. Somebody saw that I was on a Twitter space and said, look, Anas isn't going to be able to respond to you right now. He's on a Twitter space. But just wait, I think 20 minutes and he'll be off and he'll be back.
That's pretty epic.
That's so cool. And
I love that.
That's community.
That's community. But that's the difference, is that these are evangelists. They believe in your brand. They care about your business. They want to be a spokesperson. They want to pitch in, and you don't have to pay them.
Yes.
Like, it's just like,
it's crazy.
It's crazy, but that's how Web3 works, is that everybody feels they have a stake in it.
But I think what's different though is that they hold a token. And so the thing is, let's not get around the fact that if the community does well, they do well too, right?
100%.
I mean, that's what happened with the Board API Club, and before that, the crypto punks, right? The value of these things went up so significantly that they could see why it made sense.
But I don't think that's the motivator for someone to, let's say, comment on the Discord. I think the motivator is that sense of belonging. When you have that token, even if you own it, you feel that you belong to this kind of bigger family.
Membership.
Yeah.
It feels like you belong to something.
Exactly.
And everyone likes to, it's just like, we love to communicate through brands that we wear, like the sneakers we have on, the sunglasses we wear. And I think that's the same thing when it comes to NFTs. Like we like to say, like I'm a Bored Ape, or I own a Veefriends, or I'm a World of Women, or, you know, people want to communicate through brands. And does the same thing when it comes to NFTs.
So we talked a little bit about storytelling. We talked a little bit about, community. And when we look at Gary, for example, Gary, everyone thinks like he's flawless, right? Because he does everything so well. But has he had any big challenges in community building that others could learn from?
That's a good question. Of course, everybody has challenges. He's not like the Messiah where nothing goes wrong. I mean, like you have your hiccups and you have issues that come up, of course. But I think, that's a hard question. Like I'm trying to think if I can find a specific example, but the community helps a lot. Like if you mess up on something, they're forgiving, or if you miss the mark on something. I'm trying to think. I need a good example. I know we've had them. Every project has had them. I mean, I'll tell you a good one. The launch date. Gary forever had been promoting we're launching on 5/5 because 5 is his favorite number. And it was someday the documentary is going to come out about this because we were filming the whole thing behind the scenes of the making of Veefriends. We launched on 5/11. It was every day him getting up on Twitter and Discord saying, tech issues, we're going to come back to you tomorrow. We're going to launch it tomorrow. And every day it was agonizing for him. But he had been in Web 2 tech space, so he knew what it was like. But to not be able to deliver on the date, and then it was delayed a day, and then that night, and then he would say tomorrow morning, and then he would say that night. That went on for a week. Like a launch date launching a week late. I mean, you see every NFT project has have glitches when they come to launch.
Look, every
no
project has
different,
that.
you know. And then he decided to embark. One of the things that he did is he was launching a book, 12 and a half. It's the 12 and a half traits.
I've read it.
So good. And to get the book, he did this whole, if you buy 12 books, you get an NFT. And didn't realize that he would break the internet with that initiative. And everyone did the math. Like if I buy 12 books, I can get one NFT.
That
it's cheaper than
happened.
getting a Veefriend. Everyone did the math. And then he had to create 125,000 tokens. Like the largest NFT project ever. Like
The largest book printing ever.
One of our members did that. So when we hosted one of our first events at the Arts Club, two of our members actually bought like I think like 100 plus of these books.
People were giving them away because then they're like, okay, all these books showed up at my house. What do I do? And that's, by the way, was also the beauty of the community is people are like, I want to help somebody who didn't get one, or like, I want to give them away.
I actually got one. I have one.
That's how I got the book. It was from our community member giving them away at the Arts DAO Arts Club event.
And people would show pictures of cases and cases of books that they bought.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, it was a very successful campaign. And the story of book games and how they did that, that's also a really untold story. Andy Kranek, who's the president of the company, I've been like, Andy, you got to tell that story of how you guys pulled that off, because it is the largest NFT drop in the history of NFTs to date. And
congrats and chapeau to that.
Yeah, even the way that they did VCon, the ticketing for VCon was something that hadn't been done before. So just they're really building the tech. Like this is a tech and IT company. This is not an NFT company. And I think you're going to see them leading that conversation in the marketplace and in the ecosystem. I think it's going to be, history will tell, but I think it's going to be something that a lot of companies can learn from.
So we're coming up on time. I just want to wrap this up. What we normally do to wrap up these podcasts is like we like to ask a couple of rapid fire questions. Just about you. What it's just a little personal. And it'll be fun. So the first one is very simple. If you were not doing what you were doing now, what would you be doing?
One of two things. I would either be a teacher, because I believe in education and impacting people. So I really my whole family is a family of educators. Or I would be working in news. Like I love
I can see you as a news anchor.
Yeah, I love being I was an intern at a newsroom. I love it like when you get the information off the wire and you have to prepare it before you tell it to the public. That secret sauce of that middle point of trying to take a story and shape it and build a narrative excites me to no end. So that would be one of two careers I'd be doing.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
Second question. You've obviously been in the region for a long time.
Yes.
So what is your favorite restaurant in Dubai?
Okay, well, the food scene this time, I've been here now for 10 days, and I have really tried a lot of new places. You want me to pick one?
One.
Yeah, your absolute favorite. If I tell you, take me to a restaurant now, right now, where would you take me?
Oh God, you guys, I had like 3 epic meals since I've been here, like really good ones. Roca, so good.
Roca is very good.
Roca,
Yeah.
because that kind of covers everything.
And they have a
one
great
here-
The
business
one here in
lunch as
Business
well.
Bay.
Yeah, in that beautiful building.
Yeah, but I had
Opus.
like incredible food at Sushi Samba. I had the most delicious Palestinian food at Mama
yeah.
Ish.
Sushi Samba is good.
Yeah.
too.
I had last night Iraqi food at
At
Yaba,
Samad.
and oh my God, that was insane.
That's amazing.
So-
Did you have the fish, the big fish?
No, I had this like phyllo thing and this meat thing and this like a black salad. It was incredible.
All right, final question. What secret skill do you have that nobody knows about? Or talent? Skill or talent?
I can sing.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
You should have come to our karaoke the other day.
yeah.
Oh, really?
You can sing.
Shoot. And then don't ask me to sing right now. I knew you were going to say, okay, well, show us. The reason it's a hidden talent, after you hear me sing, you might go, now we know why it's hidden.
No, I actually think you have a great voice.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
have a news anchor voice without a doubt.
News anchor voice. Coming to you live from the Crypto Shake podcast.
Well, now the Arts DAO podcast.
The Arts DAO
Yeah, we
podcast.
changed the name.
You changed the name? You rebranded?
Yeah.
Oh, we just keep it
I like
all
it.
one
Keep it on the
brand.
thing. And I love the mugs, the
Oh, yeah.
Good Morning mugs.
GM.
GM.
I know. I'm like, I got to get a hat. I got to get a mug. But I see that you guys are taking care of me.
We
So-
got one for you right
yeah,
here.
yeah. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. It was short. We would have loved to talk to you
Yeah.
for longer. But
Insights
But
on
there was
all
a
kinds
lot
of
of value
stuff.
packed
A
in
lot
this,
of good
in this
value.
short
We'll do it again.
podcast.
absolutely. We'd love to
I'm
have
going to
you
have
back.
you guys on my podcast.
Dude, what? Give us a time and date. We're
Yeah,
gonna be there.
we'll do it. We'll have to do it remotely back in America.
No
or when I
worries.
come back in November.
Sounds
Fantastic.
good. Let's do it.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thank you,
Well,
Maha.
thank you, Mom.